In today's episode of I Create Crafts, I'm going to show you how to paint a wood sign using a Cricut machine. So this is the exciting part. We're going to see how it turns out. That's the fun part, is watching your project come to life. Okay guys, so the first thing I do when I make my signs before I go on my computer and design space is I measure out my board and I prep it before I do anything else. So I'm using just an old piece of wood that I had laying around, and I'm going to do it both sides. So I'm going to paint this side and then I'm going to go ahead and do this side. But as you can tell, this board's pretty nasty the way it is right now. So a lot of prep has to go into your boards before you start. So I'm going to go ahead and sand this down really well. And then I will sand the sides as well. You want to make sure you get the sides, and I like to just run my sander across here to make it a little bit smoother, and then I do the sides down here as well. But since I'm doing both sides, as this is going to be a reversed sign, I'm going to make both sides look beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and prep this. I'm just going to sand it really quick. When I do my sanding, I just use this little hyper tough palm sander. And then I just use the round sandpaper. I think it's 220 grit. But this sander works really well. It's very lightweight. It's very easy to use. I'll leave the link below in case you're interested in getting this. It doesn't have to be this particular one, but these palm sanders really come in handy. It makes really smooth work. So I'm just gonna finish this up really quick. I'll show you the before and after the other side, because the other side looks really bad, but when you do a reverse sign, you wanna make sure you get both sides. So I have my board here, it's all nice and sanded. I used a cloth and got all the stuff off of it, and it's all nice and soft. I did wanna show you this. I buy my paint on from Menards, and this is a $5 bucket. People buy paint and they don't like it and then they return it, so that's where I got mine from. That's where I get all my paint from. So I'm just going to use a foam brush and just liberally apply this to it. It's kind of like looks like a little bit of a gray, you know, like a light gray or a white color. So I'm just going to go and put it all on here. I'll do 2 coats. I'll do this one and then I'll let it dry, and then I'll come back and do another coat, and I'll do it on both sides. But you want to put a nice liberal coat on each side. So like I said, I'll let this one dry, I'll come back, I'll do another one, and then I'll do a light sanding on it as well to make sure you get rid of all the lines and make it nice and even and nice and soft for your vinyl to stick onto it. Alright guys, so now that I'm done with my board, I sanded it, I painted it, and now it's on my 3rd coat and it's drying. I came inside to work on my vinyl decal, my vinyl stencil. So the first thing I want to do is click on shapes and click on square. And this is more for a visual effect so I can see what it looks like. So I'm going to change the size of my square. So I'm going to unlock it up here, and I'm going to do the width as 9.5, and I'm going to change it to 48 long. And I know this is way too large to fit on one Cricut mat, so I'm going to cut it up into 2 or 3 different mats. But this is basically just so we can see what it would look like, and it's the exact size as my board, that when I cut this out, I can lay it directly on my board and I'll know exactly where the center is and I won't have to guess. So the next part is putting the wording on. So I'm going to click on text, and I'm going to type in hello, if I can spell. So the next thing I want to do is type in my text. So I'm going to type in hello. And one side is going to say hello spring, and the other side is going to say hello summer. So with it already selected, I'm going to go up to font. Now I'm going to search for a font that I like. So I had taken a few from defont.com and I had added it in here already. So the first one is called this Cream Cake. So I thought that looked pretty neat. But one thing with this cream cake is, as you can see as I make it larger, is the letters are really far apart. So with this selected, I'm going to go to this letter spacing up here, and I'm just going to click the down button until they all touch each other. And there it is. And I'm going to stretch it out a little bit more so we can make sure. So I'm going to do one or two more clicks just in case, to make sure that they are all touching. Then while it's already selected, I'm going to go and push the weld button. And the reason I push the weld button is because if I just did attach and I didn't put this all the way together, it would cut out a little line on each part of these. So when you do attach, it's going to attach it all together the way that you see it. So I'm going to leave this the way it is, and I'm going to work on the next part. So I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to go to the text box and I'm going to type in spring. But instead of typing it all out horizontally like this, I'm actually going to do it vertically so it goes up and down. So I'm going to do S and then enter, P, enter, R, enter, I, enter, N, enter, and then G. So this will bring up spring. So I'll move it onto my board, and I'm going to shrink my screen down a little bit so we can see this a little bit better. I know it's hard to see because the board is so long, but again, it's just more for visual that we can see it. So I'm going to unlock it here, and I'm going to spread it out, and I'm going to bring it down all the way, make it larger. I'm going to shrink it just a little bit because I'm going to be putting some butterflies on the side of here. So I'm going to scroll it back to the top, and again you can see that the letters are really far apart from each other, so I'm going to fix that. So with this already selected, we're actually going to do the line space now. So I'm going to push the down button a few times until it gets close enough where I like it. Or you can always just go in and write whatever you want, so we'll just do -6 and see what that looks like. So that's way too much, so we'll try -3. Kind of go that route and just see whatever you like. So I like it the way that it is, but again, it's going to bring it up higher, so you're going to just want to stretch it out again. But I'm going to wait until the last part to do that. So again, you can see that they're not centered, and I like them to be centered. So with it already selected, I'm going to go to alignment and press center. So it puts everything directly in the center, which makes it nice and neat. So that part is finished as well. So one thing with this sign is I want to have a little part at the top. So I'm going to select all just so we can see all this better. And I'm going to use my grid on the side here. So I'm going to grab my box and kind of line it up with one of the lines up here. And then I'm going to grab my hello, and I think I'm going to bring it down 3 inches. So that I know that I have 3 inches at the top here, and then I'm going to put 3 inches exactly at the bottom. And the reason for that is I'm going to put some rope around my sign after I'm all finished with it. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, make this guy a little bit smaller, but then bring him down so he starts at the 3. So you got 3 inches here as you do at the top, so it's exactly the same width and height. So one last thing I want to do is select all, and then I'm going to hit align, and I'm going to center it so that everything goes directly in the center. So not only is it centered on both sides, but it is at the top and the bottom because I'm starting down at 3 inches. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is add a little bit of butterflies on the sides of these just to make it look a little bit neater. So I'm going to go to upload, and I'm going to find it. Here's a butterfly that I had taken off of Google. I found a free image for butterfly, and I added it into Design Space. So here it is. If you have the Cricut access, you could go into images and find a butterfly, but I don't have it, so they would charge me for it. So I'm just going to go ahead and put them in here however I see that it looks good. So I have it selected. I'm going to push duplicate, and I'm just going to make another one. And then just keep going all the way down. I can switch them up so they look different. Make a different size. You know, whatever you want to do with these. Make it a little smaller. Push duplicate again, then you make another one. It's just kind of fun to play with. Make this guy a little bit smaller maybe. Push duplicate again. I mean, you can use whatever you want. I just think this is kind of fun to use butterflies for spring. Duplicate. Make another one. Over there. And then one more maybe. And we'll put him down here. I'm a little smaller because I have that rope that's going to go down at the bottom. I don't want to cover them up. So there we go. So I like how they are. Maybe this guy will make a little bit smaller because it's close to the edge there. But there you go, we can see how it is. So I love how it looks already. You could go ahead and try to cut this out, but it's going to warn you here that it's too large. Your mat size will only let you go to 11.5 to 23.5 or less. Alright, so the next part I want to do is I want to slice out the images that I have here. And unfortunately, it would only let you do 2 images at one time, meaning that I want the box and I want all these black things sliced to each other. So I can only do 2. So I'm going to hold on the box, and I'm going to hold the control button down, and I'm going to click on the hello. And that will give me the box and the hello. I'm going to click on slice, and I'm going to, here it is. Here's my original. Here's the cutout piece. So I'm going to get rid of both of those. And now you can't see the rest of it, so I'm going to click on the box, and I'm going to click arrange and send to back. And then you will see all this. So then I'm going to do the same thing with the spring. So I'm going to click on the box, and I'm going to hold the control button down and click on the spring part. And I'm going to click slice. And there we go. So here is my original, and here is the cutout piece. So I'm going to delete both of those. Again, you want to go on to the box, arrange, and back. And then you want to go and do all these individually, all the butterflies individually. Alright, so for the last process, we have to slice it one more time just because this is going to be too large for one mat. I'm going to make 3 or 4 mats to cut out. So in order to do this, it's almost the same process. You want to go to shapes, click on a square, and then you want to take your square and go over the first part of it. And it doesn't matter if it's centered or not. You might want to look to see how far you're over it, meaning you don't want to cut off your S or your P. So I'm going to try to go right in the middle of the two. And then while your box is selected already, I'm going to go up and click on this. So I'm going to use my control button and click on that, and then I'm going to click slice. And that just does the same thing. So here is the first mat that's going to cut out. And I can delete that. And then here's also another one. You can use whichever one you want to use. They're both the same. So there's the first part. And then I'm going to do the next with this same thing with the next part. I'm going to slice out the P and the R. So again, I'm going to go to the shapes, click on a square, and then just make the square bigger where it fits over the R, P and the R, and I'll move it to the back, oops, where I can see it, and make sure I cut it where I have enough room in between the middle. So do the same thing. I'm going to push a control button. I already have the square selected, and I'm going to select the other part, and then I'm going to click slice. And then again, here's our second part. I can delete this one, and then I can delete our square that we had. And then I have to do one more because unfortunately this is too big. Actually, I don't have to do any more because this is big enough. So you can see up here where it says this is 9.5 by 14.62, so that's going to fit on one mat. This one's going to fit perfectly in another mat. It's 9.75 by 12. And then this one is going to fit on the mat as well because it's 9.75 by 21. So as long as you're under the 23.5, you will be okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is go to make it, and I'll show you what they look like. And it's going to say that it's too large. You need to do a 24 by 24 mat, which it does for you automatically. And we have 3 separate mats over here. So here's one, here's the other one with the hello and the S, and then we have one more. So it's going to cut it out exactly how you see it. So when you weed it out, all you have to do is take these parts out, which if you just pull it off of the mat, it should stick to it. So I'm going to cut these 3 out using just vinyl. I know some people say that you can use the shelf liners from the Dollar Tree, but I unfortunately have not had any luck with those. So I'm just going to use some old vinyl that I had sitting around and cut all 3 of these out, and I'll show you how they turn out when I'm finished. But I'll show you quick. I'm going to just click continue, and it's going to ask me to connect my machine. I have the Cricut Maker, and I like to use these as my favorites. I use the stencil vinyl or the vinyl here, but for this particular one, I'm gonna use the stencil vinyl. All right, here's my sign. It's all dried. I put three coats of paint on it. I have my stencils that I had cut out, and I weeded out, so here's what it looks like. I'm gonna carefully put it onto my board. But quickly, I wanted to tell you that after my paint had dried, I had went over it with the sander again and went through it. I'd done some spots on the side here. I don't know if you can really see it, but I took some off specifically to make it look distressed. So now I'm just gonna put my vinyl on, and then I'm gonna go over it with paint, but I'll show you the next step after I get the vinyl put on. All right, so I screwed up. I thought my camera was going on the first part. It wasn't, but this is why I split them and slice them, because you get this nice clean line here, and I cut the edges to be the same length or the width of my board, but a little bit longer. And I just took some transfer tape that I got, and I'm just pulling it off carefully, making sure all the bubbles are out and that the vinyl sticks. And before I pull it all the way off, I get my next stencil ready, because I'm using the same transfer tape. So you gently want to put your transfer tape on the next piece you're working with, and then slowly use your hands and pull it down, and make sure you don't get any bubbles in it. Then using your fingers or a credit card or a scraper, you just push it down. Then you carefully peel back the backing of it and you put it on your board. So now I have my transfer tape on the last part. I'm just using my fingers really carefully around the edges to push all the bubbles out and make sure the pieces are flat on my board. And then you just carefully peel back the transfer tape, leaving the vinyl behind. There, and then you just go back and use your finger or scraper, whatever you have, and just push out all the bubbles that are around your edges. And then the way that I do this, that I don't have the next color bleed underneath, is I paint this the base color. So I'm gonna paint all of this white, and then if it is gonna bleed, it'll bleed just the white color. So I will do the same process as before. I will just use a sponge brush and lightly go on. If you even have makeup brushes, you could go on and do it, but I have a lot of sponge brushes that I bought over the years. So I'm just gonna use that very lightly with the paint, just one very thin layer of paint, and then go over it with the other colors. Just lightly go over, and it's gonna seal any little holes or bubbles that you have. So that's why you're using your base color, so that if you were just painting it and you had a hole in it somewhere or some bubbles, that color would come right through. So we're just doing a light paint, hardly pushing on this. And then I'll let it 100% completely dry. I will come back and then I will go in with the other colors. Okay, so I painted this all white, my base color is completely dry. Now I'm going to take my foam brushes that I have. I was originally gonna use makeup brushes, but now that my kids know where my supplies are, they took them. I have all these paints here. I bought these from Hobby Lobby for I think it was $18. I don't ever pay full price. I think it was 75% off of that. So I have a whole bunch of colors that I'm gonna be using. But I think for the base of it, the Hello Spring, I'm just gonna use this purple iris color. I just picked these up at Walmart. I think they're like $2 or something. So now that the base paint is on, it should not leak through this with this color. So I'm just gonna take a paper towel, put some color on it, and just dab it. So with these, you don't want to brush it on, you want to just dab it on lightly, and then that helps it not to sink through either. So a lot of up and down motion. So I've decided to do the Hello, a purple color, and then the spring in this, I don't know, it's a blue color for the spring, and then I'll do different colors for each one of the butterflies. So I'm so excited about this. So I was just gonna paint my butterflies just one color, and I'm like, how cool would that look to actually make it black here for the antennas, and then the part that comes down beneath their butt. I don't know what that's called. Was that funny? So I can't find a really tiny paintbrush. I'm gonna do my best I can by getting in here. And then I also thought, why don't I kick it up a notch and put some glitter on it too? I think that would be kind of neat. It's gonna be for outside, so I'm gonna poly this after I'm all done. So if I put glitter on it, it's gonna stay on anyway. So I'm gonna just take some black really quick and just do the antennas on here. So again, you need to have, for it not to bleed, you need to have the color of the background. So I'm actually just gonna paint this whole part here, because then you won't have any bleeding of your next color. And then once your black dries, you can come in with your other color. So I'm just gonna do the same with the other ones quickly. Obviously, I'm not that artistic, but I think I am with using a Cricut machine. You might be artistic, but I'm not, but that's why I'm just trying to go above and beyond and show you how to do things. You might be really well at drawing flowers or butterflies in, but this is the way I'm doing it. I'm just showing you how I know. I love my Cricut machine. I love the ideas I get from it, so I hope you're enjoying this video. If you are, please subscribe and give it a big thumbs up and finish watching this. So I'm gonna try this. If you see a butterfly, they're not all the same color. I'm just gonna do a little dabbing on the edge here of the butterfly, just barely touching it. Yeah, as Bob Ross says, there's no mistakes, there's just happy little accidents. Just happy little butterfly. No little accidents. So I'm just roughing it. I want some of the black to stick out. I'm just trying to get rid of the white in between here. I don't know how this is gonna turn out, but I'm trying to give it some kind of depth. So the only wet ones that are really left are these pink ones. I think it's gonna take a while for it to dry, so I'm just gonna see how it looks just to put some glitter on it. And then it'll dry with the glitter on it. So this is the exciting part. We're gonna see how it turns out. That's the fun part, is watching your project come to life. I will tell you, I'm really happy that the white paint is not coming off. And there's no bleeding so far, so doing the color underneath was definitely helping. And this butterfly looks amazing. I love how it's got the black antennas, and it's got the body on it. It's got a little bit of black shadow around it. So I got these from Harbor Freight. I don't buy the Cricut brand. These work so much better than the Cricut ones do. You just gotta be very careful because they are very sharp. And they were like $2 for the whole thing. So these are really awesome little tools. You just go in and be very careful, kind of watching your lines. And grab a piece and just pull it apart. And one of the reasons why I did the edges like this is because if there's mistakes like this, it pulls up, it looks like it was on purpose. So that's okay. So I got one more piece in the S here. But I really like it so far. There's absolutely no bleeding in here because I did the base color first. So let's continue. Oh my gosh, I love the glitter. That looks so good. Last piece. Wow. Guys, look at this. Look at that. It turned out great. So this is the first side. It's okay if the paint peels off of here because when I was sanding it, I was making it look like it was distressed anyway. So it goes with it really well. So to finish it, I'm gonna you can either spray poly on it, paint it on, or I heard you can even use Mod Podge on it, which I don't know if I would trust that for outside. I always use for my signs, I always use the polyurethane. So I think I'm gonna put that on here after I'm done. But remember, I still have to do this side. This side's gonna say hello summer. It's gonna be the same process. I'm gonna do everything just like I did as the front, but I will show you it when it's finished. But guys, I'm really excited about how this turned out. So how you like it? How did it turn out? I think it turned out great. I wish you guys would give it a big thumbs up and subscribe and share with your friends. It was a fun project. I could see doing it with friends. This butterfly turned out really well. I like how the black comes out in with it. And I did just the bottom too, I did some glitter, and I think that turned out really well, and it sparkles nice in the sun.